All right, recording. Scary. And let's see, unfortunately, I'm going to have to mute everyone just in case we have a Zoom bomber. All right, and I'll mute people when it's their turn, switch to speaker mode. Oh, so exciting. All right, hello everyone, so good to see you. This is the virtual book release party for Getting Away with Everything, ta-da, by Vincent, Cellucci and Christopher Shipman. It is 248 pages, and it is only $18 at places like Amazon.com and bookshop.org. So if you haven't gotten a copy, you should, because, you know, we worked very long and hard on it. You can tell it's got a thick spine. We're going to hear from the authors in a bit, but first we wanted to hear a few songs from Willis Gordon. Willis is a musician, stand-up comedian, actor, author, essayist, activist, and veteran of the War on Terror. Gordon is committed to quality entertainment and the improvement of our communities through art, action, and inclusion. He organized the Rock the Block voter registration concert in 2016 and continues to register voters and fight for civil rights across Stark County, Ohio. He is the author of The Long Road Home and The Empty Boulevards, as well as a syndicated column, The Road Forward. His live album, Willis Gordon Live, is available anywhere you stream music. A firm optimist, Gordon believes love is not just tender, but tough, and the only way the arc of history bends toward justice is through the hard work of ordinary people. Willis, are you an ordinary person? I'm not sure. Let's see, let me unmute you real quick. Okay, ask to unmute.
Absolutely not. But my weirdness should not prevent ordinary people from doing their part. Oh, so listen, I really wanted to do this. I came out here. I haven't seen the fellows in a really long time. So I wanted to have an opportunity to do this, but I am squeezing this in between two panels for Minority Veterans of America. So I have to run after I do this, but I wanted to play for a bit here, and I think you asked for 15. So a couple of songs here.
Yeah, 15 will be perfect. Mm-hmm.
So I will play you a tune here, since a lot of us have either met in New Orleans or somewhere around there. I wanted to play an old tune called St. James Infirmary. In the corner by the square, they were serving drinks as usual, and the usual crowd was there. Now on my right stood Big Joe McKenzie. His eyes were bloodshot red. He turned to address the crowd around him, and these are the very words that he said. I went down to St. James Infirmary. I saw my little baby there. She was stretched out on a long white table, so cold, so sweet, so fair. And I said, let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. Searches for out all find a sweeter man. And when I die, won't you bury me in my high top Stetson head? Put a $20 gold piece in my wallet so the boys know the dad's getting back. I want 6 scrap shooters on my hearse wagon. Want a chorus girl to sing me a song. I want some gamblers on my funeral parade, racing hell as we roll along. And I said, let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. Search so wide, all over, found sweet memory. Now when I die, won't you bury me in that Apatow Stetson bag? Put that $20 gold piece in my wallet so the boys know the dance didn't pay. Now I told my story. Pour me a shot of booze. Yeah, anybody ever ask? I got them St. James Infirmary. Well, now I told my story. Pour me a shot of booze. Yeah, anybody ever ask? I got them St. James Infirmary. St. James Infirmary. St. James Infirmary. Hey. All right. So, was that there? For my New Orleans people, I put that arrangement together a couple of years ago, and it's worked for me so far. All right, let's see what we got here. This is one of my tunes. This is off the last record, and you can stream this wherever you get music. This song is called Ghosts. Kid on the corner, freaking black and mild, like he's scared cold, and his ace is wild. Spend less in a real tight spot. Just got one chance to give it all he's got. They don't let go, no not for nothing, and don't you ever forget. Here comes a girl, really in mind with a parents storm, but she's in on the grind. It wants a bonus, cash and charm, and 6 months later, she's got Jackson around. They don't let go, no not for nothing, and don't you ever forget. Here comes a boy home from school in a brand new city. They gotta keep his cool. Them flashing lights coming by the tracks. He's got bullets in the back of his doors. They don't let go, no not for nothing, and don't you ever fall. Oh man. So All right. So let's see. I got a couple more. Let's do another jazz standard here. I think I played this last time I was on Zoom with everybody. But this is a song from the first musical I was ever in, October 1999, and I was a kid in the chorus of Porgy and Bess, and it was a ton of fun, and there was a lot of old timers in the show with me, guys who'd done Chitlin Circuit stuff when they were kids, and I learned a ton from those guys, and it was a lot of fun, especially like being in the locker room where you weren't supposed to smoke, down in the dressing rooms down below. Guys were like smoking cigars and playing spades and talking shit during rehearsals, and it was a whole lot of fun to be around that. It's like as a young kid, so a lot of fun there. But this song is near and dear to me, and I've kept it in the set for a while. But this is Summertime. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish jumping in the canyons. So dead as a bridge in your mouth. Looking so hush, little baby. Don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Spread your wings and take to the sky. But until that day, I will not be with daddy and mommy. Standing back. Summertime and the living is easy. Fish jumping in the canyon. So goddamn high, but your daddy's rich and your mom is so hush, little baby. Don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry, don't you cry now, don't you cry, don't you cry now. Don't you, 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 don't you. So last number, thank last number for me is another original. And this is off the last record as well. I wanted to do like a blues ballad type thing. Stick with some of the R&B roots and some of the blues stuff too. But this is one of my favorite tunes to play, and it's become a favorite of ours live. So the song's called Make Up Your Mind. Been down this road for way too long. I'm finally telling myself I don't care if it's wrong. It's not the right time, but you wanna be mine, won't you?
Willis, you got muted somehow.
You don't have to go sleep, but if you want me, just let me know. Stop fooling around. This is bringing us down. Let me turn you around. I want you to come as you are, just as you are. Lord, we made this far. It's not the right time, but you wanna be mine. Won't you make up your mind? That is all for me. But I really appreciate you guys having me here and being in the space, especially for this, especially for something so cool as a book release like this. Chris, Vince, congratulations. This is really, really a momentous occasion, especially putting something out that's that thick. You know what I mean? That's a that's an impressive thing. So I want to say again, congratulations. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for some of these wonderful comments down here. I'm gonna hang around for a couple of minutes, but then I'll slip out the back door to get to the rest of these events today. But I just wanted to come down here and share a little bit. And like I said, it's available wherever you stream music, and I'm around. So guys, hit my Facebook, email me, text me if you got my number, all that stuff. I'd love to catch you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in on a busy day. If you have a specific link you want to drop in the chat for purchases, that'd be cool.
Sure.
Hmm?
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, that would be excellent. Yeah, and again, thanks for coming. That was fantastic. All right, we're going to hear some poetry now. We're going to hear from Brooke Champagne, another friend of Willis and Shippy's. Another friend of Vincent and Shippy's even. Brooke Champagne was born and raised in New Orleans and now writes and teaches in Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama. She was awarded the inaugural William Bradley Prize for the essay of her piece Exercises, which was published in the Normal School and listed as Notable and Best American Essays 2019, and was a finalist for the 2019 Lamar York Prize in Nonfiction for her essay Bugginess, published in the Chattahoochee Review. Her writing has appeared in many print and online journals, most recently in Under the Sun, Barrel House, and Hunger Mountain. She's a work on her first collection of personal poetries entitled Nola Face. Let me unmute Brooke. Brooke, what are you going to read for us today?
Thank you so much. Well, it's not exactly poetry, but I hope it's poetic. I'm going to be reading the first part of my the title essay from my collection. It's called Nola Face, and Vincent does appear in this, but not in the section I'm going to read. So maybe you can extrapolate what Vincent's going to do later in this piece. And this is just the first few pages of the title essay, which is a collection about being a bad New Orleanian and bad at everything else I'm supposed to be, just generally. So, Nola Face. It was unfortunate. The bitch had an ugly face. Aquiline nose, weird on a dog, and muddy eyes that couldn't pick a color. Puppies are supposed to be cuddly, but her tiny calf torso was covered with coarse fur about as soft as a pine cone. When Brock rescued this abandoned pit boxer mutt from the LSU Lake biking path shortly after Hurricane Katrina, rather than lauding his heroism, I took it personally. I felt like a woman forced off birth control so she could pop out another one. We already had a dog, King, a downy, soft, smiley, but high-maintenance 3-year-old Aussie. When did I co-sign for 2? Our community was dog rescue fatigued after the storm, so no one would take her in. If she wasn't adopted within weeks at the overrun shelter, they'd, kill her. King kept lovingly licking her eyes. Brock fed her by hand. Everyone was smitten, but I was already tired. When her heavy tail banged across her crate each morning at 5, excited for another day on this earth, I reminded her every time that she was only alive, not because of Brock, but because of me. Still, I'm not that shallow. Nola, whom we named perhaps too obviously after my birthplace, became beautiful to me soon enough. She quickly grew into a 50-pound pine cone, but even to old age, she behaved like a lapdog. This was a dog who conspicuously licked her lips each time we ate, tonguing bigger and bigger circles around her mouth until we offered her any little scrap of beef jerky or potato salad or oatmeal. She was easily appeased. In those early days as a sleepless mom to a toddler puppy, I yelled at her a lot, but she never held a grudge. Maybe because she was so sweet, I no longer noticed her dearth of beauty. Then we moved to Alabama, and at a start of semester cookout we hosted, Nola met our colleague's blonde pit bull, Pearl. This dog was a Nola leveled up, a pretty Nola, smooth and shiny skinned with marbled muscles, a purebred. As soon as Pearl stepped daintily into the side door of our cabin, Nola lost all of her shit. She barked maniacally, hackle spiking dangerously from her back. It was like watching Gizmo morph into a gremlin. When I pinned her down, middle school wrestler style, I saw the utter transformation of her face. She was a wooden statue warrior come to life. Her nostrils flared, her eyes lasered onto Pearl. She'd respond to no command until our colleagues finally walked backwards slowly out of the house, leaving Pearl leashed and socially distanced for the next 2 hours. The cookout was still a success, but we had to keep Nola crated for most of it. Her face would return to normal, but whenever Pearl made an unexpected movement or sound, she'd Nola face it all over again. That's what we call this phenomenon, the Nola face. We had no idea how prolifically it would return when she'd encounter Daisy, the urbane French bulldog, then Sadie, the velvet-bowed wool sweater terrier, then the anonymous Siberian Husky Ice Queen at the local Arboretum. And it continued with every beautiful, purebred, or just plain pretty female dog she came across until the day, several years later, when she died. I'm trying to remember the exact moment when I realized I'd created Nola in my own jealous, bitchy image. Listen, I haven't been looking forward to admitting my blonde problem. It's as shamefully a part of me as my propensity to turn silently sour when I don't get my way. My dark skin and hair and reading obsession designated me early on as culturally not beautiful, at least in my mind, which gave me access to that other realm for awkward girls, chubby/funny. But I couldn't even be notable at that. I wasn't chubby enough for my pediatrician to scold my mother about it, and I've never been as funny as I'd like. Only last year when my daughter started doing it and I noticed how ineffective it is, did I stop telling a joke twice if no one laughed after my first delivery. I'll change my inflection this time, then they'll get it. Funny people are supposed to let shit go more easily, but I'm no Tina Fey. In her book, Bossy Pants, Fey easily dispatches the power of blondes by calling them yellow hairs. By renaming them something so prosaic, she chops off their mystical powers. In an age when the standard beauty norms have changed drastically, when in my teens, Beyonce and Selena and J-Lo widened them, I couldn't blame a reader for wondering what the hell my problem is. But it cannot be helped. Blondes, for me, are Elijah Muhammad's white devil. They're the white devil's daughter. They are the standard. They are the ultimate. They are the totally tubular. They are Christy Brinkley, lively dancing before a red Corvette, while Chevy Chase throws her sandwich air kisses. They're Olivia Newton-John in black leather and aquanetted curls. They're a size zero Penny, shimmying and dirty dancing, and all her pre-abortion pink dress perfection. They're Christy Brinkley again, fancy-hatted and descending from a black Butler-driven Rolls Royce, twirling with a bunch of mechanics singing doo-wop into socket wrenches. And because one of them is Billy Joel, despite all of them making rapey faces at her, she knows for certain she is not going to get raped. To exercise myself from their dominion over my childhood, I recently decided to re-immerse in early 80s blondes. And it was a 1983 music video for Uptown Girl that ultimately broke the spell. I cannot believe I ever coveted these blonde looks or lives. They're skinny and boring, and barring Penny's abortion snafu, soullessly one-dimensional. Their personality is I like boys, though they like even better for boys to notice them. Yet this is inherent to the blonde problem. Their dearth of character doesn't matter because they were and remain ubiquitous. Only after reading Claudia Rankine's essay, Complicit Freedoms, in her collection, Just Us, did I discover blonde's ubiquity is a facade. It turns out only 2% of the world's blondes are naturally so. Real blondes live in Sweden and the rest of them diet. The possibility that blondes might also hate themselves has provided me no small amount of comfort. I'd always assumed my blonde issue was a beauty thing, because if there's an American caste system for beauty, and of course there is, I grew up solidly middle caste, destined to always venerate yellow hairs as beacons of sublimity. To some degree, that's still true. But in years of studying Nola's Nola face, directed pointedly to purebred female dogs, I'm seeing a connection in our Nola facedness. Nola and I are both muddled mutts. We lack purity, or maybe a better word for it, pedigree. It was not the case that every one of my graduate school peers were moneyed white people with advanced degreed parents, but most of them were. It's true, a few felt proud to call themselves blue collar, like the New England white woman who also claimed to be more Hispanic than me. Her rationale, I couldn't cumbia, and she grew up with more Hispanic friends. For the record, she was a blue-eyed blonde. Ain't that a bitch? No one in grad school ever explicitly stated this, of course, but in feedback I received, like the correct ways to interpret my Ecuadorian grandmother's culture and behaviors, in the canonical readings I was assigned, there was the implication whites had more of a right to write. My imaginary readers looked just like the crowd of lilies surrounding me at the mahogany table in the Robert Penn Warren room, so I bent a quiet head across the workshop table towards them. What grad school paid for, much more than learning the craft of writing, was a tentative access to pedigree I wouldn't have had otherwise. Because being first gen is mere novelty. Real pedigree trumps it every time. Sure, with an MFA in hand, I could teach as an instructor at a university, but I'd be paid half the salary of my tenure track colleagues and teach twice as much. The real access gained was in making academic friends, for whom the intellectual life I've always coveted was a given. One good friend worked in upper administration at the University of Alabama. Her father was college president for another large Southern state school. This meant their family lived in the campus mansion where once in my early 30s, I was invited to stay for the weekend. Their house/museum was decorated with inscrutable paintings by canonical artists I couldn't name and would forget to later look up. If family pedigree could be ascertained by furniture, this one was mahogany. Mine was particle board. A decade later, these lovely and welcoming folks remain dear friends. But imagine you grew up with a stepfather who considered the height of literature to be Field and Stream, best read on the toilet with a bush light, and you've just entered the colonial home belonging to a better adjusted Tenenbaum. Every family member had a major artistic talent: singing, painting, dancing. Probably even their dog knew which artist hung on the walls. What stung most is that everyone spoke Spanish, since they traveled the world many times over, vacationed in Spain and Mexico, across South America. Study abroad was not an if concept, but a when, where, and how often. I scanned photos atop the mahogany sideboard, a piece of furniture which at that point I didn't even know the name of, and saw a picture of my friend's father and stepmother with the Pope. The stately stepmother lifted the gilded frame. We were lucky enough to be visiting the Vatican when he came out to bless the crowd, and he sure was holy, because I got pregnant right after this trip. That's why we named our oldest Maria Graciela. Before I could sink my ass into some genuine leather, the father poured me a bourbon neat. This was a language I fully understood. But then he started speaking to me in Spanish, declaring how lucky I was to grow up around it. Yep, I said. En español, he said merrily. Because I've historically done precisely what white men asked me to do, I stumbled through some excuse for my poor Spanish. My grandmother was in a nursing home in New Orleans, and she wasn't much for talking on the phone anymore. What about your mother? He asked. Oh, we've never spoken Spanish with each other. That would be like us flossing each other's teeth, unnatural. I hope my jokes were making up for the fact I was continuing to speak in English while he spoke in Spanish. How long could this continue? Unnatural indeed. Have you been back to the homeland yet? It's Ecuador, see? He asked. Not yet, unfortunately. Oh, you must go. Why haven't you? Muy pobre would have been an honest answer and one I could respond with easily. I'd checked Expedia for tickets and knew they cost more than $1,000 year round. But I would also need to bone up on my Spanish beforehand to avoid situations like the one I was in right now. I didn't want to sound like an Enriqueta in front of any long lost relatives. I gave another non-committal, easy but truthful answer. No sé. I thought that would be the low point in this trip's Nola facery, begrudging nice, overly educated white people for their nice, overly educated white lives. But then I learned about the 11-year-old twins' major artistic talent: writing. I don't have Nola's hackles, but I did feel the hair rise on the back of my neck when I heard this unwelcome news. The twins, it must be repeated, 11 years old, had just won separate statewide writing competitions, the stepmother announced. She knew I was a writer and insisted I praise their work. After I read one of their poems, something melancholic and yes, well beyond their ages, I smiled and offered encouragement. Meanwhile, my emotional hackles lowered because I could finally relax. My shit was better than theirs. That's when I knew I must beg Nola's forgiveness for my years of judgment. I had a major Nola face problem of my own.
Brooke, thank you so much. That was great fun. You're muted already? Let me unmute you real quick. Thank you so much.
I muted myself. Thank you.
Do you want to drop a link in the chat?
Sure. Do you want? I have an essay about cunts that I just got published, so I'll drop that in there.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for coming. It's good to see you again. Next up is Brooke Guthrie. Brooke is the author of Contemplative Man from Sibling Rivalry in 2014. Sibling Rivalry won't publish me, so he's got something I don't. His poems appear in Cimarron Review, Los Angeles Review, New Ohio Review, Rattle, The Southern Review, and elsewhere. Born and raised in Athens, Ohio, He now lives in Tuscaloosa and teaches at the University of Alabama. Brooke, let me unmute you. All right.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. Thanks, Chris and Vince, for inviting me. I'm just going to read 3 poems. This first one feels appropriate on a Saturday. It's called Hair of the Dog. Oh, that sounds good, is what he meant to say just now to the waitress in this Irish pub, who described the seasonal beers to the fish-eyed confusion of his face. But what came out in a feeble crack when she suggested a flight of 6 varietals was more like, "Oi, that sound gade," because the glare through the blinds is a tractor beam pulling his brain away from his mouth, and the muffled voices and distant dishwashing are hot dogs barking everything mustard code at his fuck face. And so, because the question of what to drink is a barrier this morning between himself and the drink he needs to think, in response to the waitress's stellar suggestion, he began to say, "Oh, that," while his brain was thinking, "Yeah." And somehow he merged the two in a pubescent vocal effort the waitress called crazy random. And he felt some relief then until he saw her eyes meant pointless nobody. And a dozen minor humiliations converged in a thundercloud out there beyond the barrens of his mind. Visible rain, misty foreboding of tomorrow's worried nausea and tomorrow night's sleepless sweat, pre-dawn nightmares, misty foreboding, drifting now behind the merciful fog of laughter from his companions, Ralph and Mudd, who mimicked his misarticulation 4 or 5 times each, their accents a little more Irish each time. "Oi, that sound gade," with the pogues already blaring on the pub's goddamn speakers here at 10:30 something in the morning. And whereas last night he'd have named his first son for Shane McGowan, today that voice sounds like the sick in his esophagus. But it's fine. It's okay. Nothing is banjaxed. Nothing specked here. For a flight of beer is on the way because the waitress took his proper order, didn't she? All right, this one's called Judd Apatow's Bald Spot. He just finished his set at the Comedy Cellar, and now we were standing next to each other at urinals above which a long angled mirror allowed me to see the crown of my head. I could see Judd's crown too, but only if I turned my face far enough, in a way he'd easily sense and think I was trying to peek at his junk. But I peeked at his crown, and Judd flinched hard, and I thought real quick and almost said, "Great job out there," to seem sort of harmless. But I must have thought that would also seem too fawning, too average Joe. And I'm no average Joe, I'm an interesting poet. So I said, "Hey, Judd, we have similar bald spots." And in the time it took him to zip up and leave without washing his hands, I'd gone from run-of-the-mill bathroom pervert to celebrity stalker bathroom pervert. And I guess it served me right, even though much of his material does address male aging. So it seemed like a suitable remark. But there was also the remaining wrinkle of where my wife and I were sitting, our table right next to the low stage. So we'd be more or less in the spotlight for the next few acts. And from the back of the club where all the comics gather, Judd could point me out and say, "See that asshole with my bald spot? He just tried to jerk me off," or something wittier, I'm sure, to his discerning comic friends. And it wouldn't be the first time I'd been used as a punchline after a misunderstanding, but good for Judd Apatow. I'm sure he knocked it out of the park. And since it wasn't true, I simply tried not to care and focused on getting the story just right over bourbons and ice with my wife. All right, this next one is it's an elegy for rapper Biz Markie and an earlier elegy for earlier version of myself, I think, too. It's called Biz Markie and Me. I saw him in New Orleans in 2005, 15 years after his smash hit Just a Friend. He was crossing the street with an entourage of 4. I was at a red light on Decatur and Canal. Early spring, already hot, not a lot of people out. I think it was a Thursday. My left hand on the steering wheel, I sort of pointed and thought, Biz. His crew must have sensed it. They elbowed him like, look, boss, a true fan. And true would have been accurate because it's not as if he was conspicuous. He was just a guy walking down the street with friends. So my spotting him revealed a nuanced appreciation, not only for obscurely iconic American faces, but also for the texture of fading stardom against the backcloth of time's passing. They were right to be impressed. But here's the remarkable thing. He jumped, stopped, turned, and pointed at me. Smile full of tongue, the clown prince of hip hop, the human beatbox, who'd made one of the all-time best anthems to unrequited love with a crazy catchy chorus any vocally challenged asshole could feel good about singing in the car or the club. You got what I need. And there we were, the Biz and me and Nola, one spring afternoon in 2005, pointing at each other for a good long second. Then he walked on, Marcel Theo Hall. I wish I could properly identify how this memory makes me feel. Happy on the one hand, but also a little shameful, shallow, because big fucking deal, and yet I remember how I reached for my phone to take a picture. Worse, I convinced myself of a lie that rode me the whole way home. I thought Biz would have shared a beer with me had I only parked my car and followed his crew into whatever quarter bar they were headed to. Hey man, it's me, the guy from the car. Imagine his reaction, the confusion of those days. Daytime drinking was often what's for dinner. Disaster averted, I say. In a roundabout way, it's like that Frost poem, A Passing Glimpse, where he remembers seeing flowers vaguely from trains and laments he can't go back and properly identify them. But then he figures, fuck it, the thought is good enough because the thought can become a poem, a stay against confusion. That's how I'd like to feel about that memory. Sloshy Brock, Frosty Rob, Biz Marquis, momentarily stayed here happily. Who dat?
Brooke, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming today. It's good to see you again. You want to drop a link to your book in the chat? You're muted already. Yeah. All right. We're going to take another, we're going to hear some more music. We're going to hear from Najib Sabor. Najeeb is a cellist and singer-songwriter originally from New Orleans. Najeeb has a passion for storytelling and uses elements such as environment, poetry, and art to co-create a new perspective, all while weaving his personal journey in each of his compositions. You can find Najeeb on Instagram and YouTube for more content. Looks like he's got his @ there and his name and his window name, @ Najib Sabor.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Jonathan. Hello, everybody. It's a lovely Saturday. It's awesome to be with you here and hearing all this awesome, great words and reading and good vibes in here. So thank you so much. Thanks for Vince for inviting me here. I appreciate it so very much. It's interesting how I met Vince. I think it was many years ago at a hazy South by Southwest through mutual friends. So how small this world is to come back around and meet each other and do some art together. So excited to be here. But you know, in the essence of new beginnings and change and wanting to reach for something new, I wanted to start off playing this song called Something New. I am weary of the road. Halls can't be wrong. I can feel it in my bones. I know that I have to go inside, fight all the fears that I'm hiding from those who are around. Can't get lonely. I know yeah. I just opened my mind to a new paradigm. New paradigm. New paradigm. Something new, y'all. Want something new. I want something new, y'all. I want something new. I want something new, y'all. Something new. Something, something, something. Father told me if I go, nothing could warm me, 'cause you know I had to go. Yes, you know I had to go. So I guess I just have to go inside, fight all the fears that I'm hiding from those who are around me. You can't get lonely. I know I guess I just opened my mind to a new paradigm. I'm so sorry, guys. My instrument. I just opened my mind to a new paradigm. New paradigm. New paradigm. Oh, want something new. Want something new. I want something new, y'all. I want something new. I want something new, y'all. How many of y'all feel the same way, huh? I want, 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 I want something new, something new, something new, something new. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for bearing with me. My string changed on me. Like life does, it changes on us. We have to adjust, figure ways how to get back in there. And keep things going. Like this next song. Like this next song that's really near and dear to me. It is a example of how I use environmental elements to co-create with a song called Promise Me. You'll sing my song. It's about a young man named Reuben Johnson who laid swinging on the tree for 26 days, not too far away from my house in 1867. The story of Reuben Johnson is that he witnessed a white kid stealing something, and he was called out as an only witness in this case. And him being a Black man, the family of the young man felt like they had power over his story and his testimony, which could help free their son. Reuben Johnson told them that he was not going to lie about what had happened. And as a result of walking in his truth, he was lynched and hanged swinging with a knife cut from throat to throat, ear to ear, for 26 days before they found his body. This song is dedicated to him, Reuben Johnson. Cause if I fly into the sun. Cause if I have to lie, I'm not the one. And if the trumpets, they come, will you promise me you sing my song? I fly into the sun. 'Cause if I have to lie, I'm not the one. The trumpets. They come. Will you promise me you sing my song? Thank you guys so very much. It's so important to share our stories and our perspectives. And I thank you so much for allowing me to be here today with you as you share your stories and I share mine. So thank you so very much. I will leave a link of my YouTube in there, and I would love it if you come and join me in my community and we can share stories with each other. So thank you so much. Thanks again, Vince. I'm so happy for you and your book launch, and to all you writers out there. It's been a pleasure to be with you here today. Thank you so much.
Najeeb, thank you. That was really powerful. Really stirring stuff. I really enjoyed it. I think everyone did. We really appreciate you being here. Okay, Najeeb is going to place his link in the chat, and I'm going to place the link for purchase of Getting Away with Everything, because it is that time. If you go to that link, you'll see a lot more information about the book. And yeah, it's available, like I say, on Amazon.com and bookshop.org, and I'm sure some more places as well. I'm going to go ahead and read both Vincent and Chippy's bio, because they normally read together, and I suspect they will today too. Vincent A. Cellucci, co-author of Getting Away with Everything, wrote Absence Like Sun from Lavender Ink and An Easy Place to Die from City Lit Press. He edited Fuck Poems, an exceptional anthology. He also has 2 collaborative titles, Comeback River from Finishing Line Press, the Bengali English translation collaborations with artist and poet Debanja Banerjee, and A Ship on the Line from Unlikely Books, to which this is a follow-up, which was a finalist for the Eric Hoffer Award. Vincent performed Diamonds in Dystopia, an interactive poetry web app at South by Southwest in 2017, and the poetry was anthologized in Best American Experimental Writing 2018. After writing and living it up in Louisiana for 18 carnivals, he moved to the Netherlands to experience sinking someplace new. He haunts the TU Delft Library. Christopher Shipman is the author of the movie My Murderer Makes, Season 2 from The Cupboard, co-author of Super Poems 2 from Kettywampus Press, and co-author of Keats Is Not the Problem from Lavender Ink, which I think Keats, yeah. His work appears in journals such as Cimarron Review, Pank, Pedestal, Plume, Salt Hill, Sport Press, and Tenderloin, among many others. He is the author or co-author of 5 books and 4 chapbooks. His poem, The 3-Year Crossing, was the winner of the 2015 Big Bridges Prize, judged by Alice Quinn. A Ship on the Line, co-authored with Vincent A. Cellucci, was a finalist for the Eric Hoffer Award, but you knew that already. Shipman lives in Greensboro, North Carolina, with his partner Sarah K. Jackson and his daughter Finn, where he teaches literature and creative writing at New Gardens Friends School and plays drum in the band The Goodbye Horses. Let's hear from Chippy and Vincent. Unmuting Christopher. Unmuting Vincent. Have y'all got it?
Yep.
I think so. It's a good thing you muted me because I think I would have interjected a few times through all those amazing performances. So I'm actually glad, out of respect for my talented friends, that I didn't get to be so excited that I chimed in too. But thank you very much for our friends joining us, Willis, Najeeb, Brooke. Wonderful. Couldn't ask for a better setup. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thanks to everyone. Brock and Brooke, it was so great to see you in New Orleans recently for a little bit. And so glad you could join us. And yeah, Willis and Najeeb, amazing. Thank you so much. I think that,
And thank you to all our friends that we see on the Zoom chat as well.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for coming. So Vince and I would like to dedicate this reading. The book is also dedicated to Michelle Greenblatt, who was our editor and friend for A Ship on the Line. We've spent years now getting this book to where it is, which is great. Michelle helped us so much, really, I think, come together as poets for our first book together in a way that is just, it's beyond me that she was able to do that for us. And she was just an amazing person. So this is for you, Michelle. And thank you, of course, to Jonathan for putting up with us and
enabling us, I would say.
Continuing to enable us. Yes, continuing to enable us. So we're going to jump right in. Again, thanks everybody for coming. The first poem I'm going to read, I'd just like to give sort of a special shout out to Brock for helping me a lot with this poem that I'm going to begin with. It's called Time Travel. 2 hours to the mountains, 4 to the sea. That's what people who knew North Carolina kept saying about Greensboro. The move from New Orleans was a number of hours hard to recall. For a haul that long, you can't count time, but space. Hours replaced with miles, around 800, give or take. It was a hotel halfway, just past Atlanta, a 15-foot U-Haul with hatchback in tow. It was walkie-talkies, a finger on top. It was worry for the woman and kid out in front, barely cresting every hill in our dying Nissan. I never let them escape my sight, my square of windshield like a rented world, but they always felt far away. Maybe moving anywhere would feel far away after 12 years in Louisiana, after Mardi Gras, masquerading as rain and wind, after king cakes, sin, and saints splayed on every table. After the birth of a kid, what people call beginning again. On the road, I remembered how in grad school in Baton Rouge, when I'd go home to Arkansas, it was always, as they say, everything seemed small, somehow smaller than that, like I could never go back. Because the moment I left the place it had already gone, disappeared into dream. I knew then I'd surrender sleep to remember waking. Now we're waking up in Greensboro. We had to get used to the hour difference, but that didn't take long. We're looking forward to the mountains, and when we're ready for the 4-hour trek to walk along the beach, all our exhausted ghosts in tow, pretending to be innocent shadows.
Ghosts in tow. I got a steam burn making tropical tea for nobody and me. Same doom, different poem. I want to leave too, how she stormed off to her room, how we storm home. Getting drunk's still fun, so's gravity. Stay alive, look alive, on the ball court or beach or empty lot. It's a turtle eat, turtle fuck terrarium out there, in here. Kevlar shell breasts. However, remember, follow snakes. Stay wild, get away, alive. Giddy up, all night, alerts. Let her riff. Nobody knows my troublesome names like you see. My ex called me a Lodi fairy, and well, I usually do pack a little heat and peat, offerings for those that don't get to, hoot for the undergod that takes it all away. And that may tap into truth, but I don't hold onto shit, putting ice cubes in my Vouv click, eating stuffed crust on a virtual porch no one has to shovel the bottles off of tomorrow.
This morning, even the porch swing was a ghost, touched perhaps by a light current of wind sweeping down from the foothills, common here in late summer, but also as if it was still, telling the story of the night before, trying to find the right words to finish a last sentence. He came outside and found himself there in the little square of sun splashed on the brick wall just beyond the swing, the mess of his hair, the shadow of a familiar monster. It felt something like a dream, like he was there and not there, like one part of him had driven out to the coast the night before, set out in a solitary dinghy to brave rocking waves and never made it back. And another part stayed put on the porch, spent the entire night watching the swing sway. By the time he saw the swing, he'd already decided waking is like being dead if the house and other inhabitants, except the cats cooing for food, are still tucked away. Then a little girl appeared at the door, her sleepy face pressed against the glass, her hair a mess like his, and her mother behind her, coffee in hand, a ready weapon, eager to deliver last night's dream. She'd gone back, she said, yet again to her grandfather's house, to carve out the valuables from the ghosts that owned them, place them gently into living hands. So she walked to the garage, brought back 2 rubber alligators, folded them into lassos, swung wildly in the air, which whipped. He understood the desire to perform such a gesture rather than finish any sentence and wake forever from that dream.
Some mornings, I dress in my metaphorical leathers, leash the muse, drag her out of her slumberous house, throw her on the back of the bike, try to show her a good time. Although most mornings I commute to campus, sweating in my synthetic jacket all Terminatored out, to face the battle of the workday. I can't find a line, think of no metaphor or alliterative phrase, but I don't die. Make love to the pavement, so rough I never rise. I make it home, walk and feed the hound, then myself. It's much simpler to get away with everything when getting away with mere nothing is no cinch. I'm going to the next one, right?
Yeah, you're up, my friend.
Oh, back to back. All right. Chronic chthonic disorder. I take it on the lam with Chiron, Crypsis on the river Styx, loose lips sink dinghies. Lord knows that's always been my Achilles. Spiel. Gagged with a bribe, this gold holds frost as well as the darkness of deaths. Can't lay lower than the underworld, an old soul in the oldest hole, where telling is the only escape from toiling. Prisoners always got something to say. Just wait even the silent ones out. We all get here the same way, passion and a lack of control. A lengthy stroll downriver, searching for what we lost past the past, past the marsh, swallowing each step with more muddy hunger, our crab traps broken. So you pull up the neighbors when they're not looking, who wants the claws when you can eat the tails in hell? It's the smell that really brings me back, and the hordes of people filing, filling their flesh with voids, last pleasures, more of a sight for sucking everything in than even a fish market or a racetrack. More viral than alive, a Catabasis clapback, the most gruesome of getaways. It's a wish, a wash, a virtual burial rite for those that don't ever want to see past the night.
Past the night. The broken basketball goal, ditched out back by the last tenants, lends its rust to the chain link fence it leans against, which divides our backyard from the neighbors. 4 college kids who party late every Tuesday, every Thursday, as if penciled in on a schedule that's taped below the bar at the local dive down the street where they all seem to work. It's hard to stay angry with them. We were wild like them and not that long ago. But we moved to this neighborhood with its 3-story UNCG professor homes, its fancy park, thinking surely the kids were drinking elsewhere. We like to drink too, but usually on the front porch, what we're used to after having lived so long in New Orleans, where only the rich or lucky have backyards big enough to sit around and sip. Sitting on the front porch, the sound of our aging shame can't travel downhill straight through a baby's bedroom window. And we can't play ping pong like the kids next door because we don't have a table or loud friends. We left them behind, stuck in an old song. We have this rusted basketball goal, which is silent except the sound of dead leaves scratching through the pink hoop and behind the backboard. We score every lie we tell ourselves about its past every time we see it lay in its waste. I guess it's hard to curb something like a broken basketball goal when you move out. It's not a couch, which we curbed on Joliet and again on Gayoso, moving from house to house when we were priced out of entire school districts. But that too is a lie, a bit of a stretcher, as Mark Twain might have said. But when we moved to Greensboro, we were told one of the first things, everything has to be in a bin, won't get picked up otherwise. So the basketball goal remains, a home for dead leaves, the lookout for the occasional squirrel scanning the terrible sky for wings. And every time I come out to our new backyard, which is big for us, to rake up the leaves, the broken goal is there prompting me to lie. To say that once it belonged to a little girl, not unlike our 5-year-old daughter, Fenn, named after Twain's attempt to rewrite a false truth. But maybe this girl was a bit older, and she got away with everything once upon a time. But by the time getting away with everything was already a story she was beginning to tell herself, the goal was already on its side and beginning to brown, like the leaves that pile around it. The leaves. That's why I'm here, to rake again. But now I see a quarter tells up among the elms dead, which makes me wonder if good luck belongs to pennies alone. I rake it into the pile, watch it glint at the top like an ornament for a foul cake cooked in hell. But I feel heavenly enough to quit working, bend down to put it in my pocket, return it again to the darkness it fell from. Maybe later I can magic a silver dream from Fenn's ear.
Nice.
All right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Were you telling a story? I was about to.
No, I was just, go ahead, tell the story. I think like I'm up next again, right?
Okay, then
Yeah.
good. Then, well, I guess I'll tell a story and then I'll let you go next.
Go for it.
But essentially, I don't, everybody that knows me on here knows I don't really do time, but, you know, Shippy and I have a correspondence and somehow we really just write these poems back and forth to each other. And I don't know, after so many years, we really say, well, we should probably do something with these. And then we start editing. Anyway, some of the ones, you know, have this very call and response things like the mornings, some mornings, and this morning, and the pass the night and pass the night. And so we really pick up each other's lines, but also there's just these crazy similarities. And I think one fun thing is that we both write poems on our birthday. And so these next two are ones that are on our birthday. Might not be so fun given more current events, but these are our birthday poems.
On the morning of my 37th birthday, I spilled from a dream somewhere between rested and rested, in which an ancient woman quivers, two whispery brooms back and forth, handle end to bristle end, in the oozy dark until my body is gone. Where its shape had stood, there's only more night. The process is slow, but my ghost flies city to country so fast I lose track of how. Through the bedroom window, I hear shivers of wind rattle dead cans. Maybe the rain hasn't stopped slanting Thursday's sky into Saturday. I check my phone for the weather, see a familiar sham sun. Imagine the actual star, glad to be a white dot ensconced on its shelf of cloud, ready to rip the morning apart, a desperate pink. Facebook tries to sell me a shirt every Capricorn should own. Its cotton sleeves make long promises to keep me warm. Every stitch choked, uplifting words about being born in January. 5 different fonts, yawning, blue and maroon. My mother sends a text, all caps. After her obligatory sentence, 3 question marks, curl black inside 3 black boxes, replacement for emojis refusing translation. I don't mind. I wonder why we place the image after the word. I wonder what balloons, cakes, or confetti. Yesterday's clothes are wadded on the floor beside the bed like a dead animal. I put myself through their holes, advance in a clash of trimmers toward the kitchen for coffee. On the table, 6 blue tulips, thin picked for my birthday. Later, both knowing their scent is wasted on us non-pollinators, we'll take turns directing our inattention to the ripe reward they signal for. I'll imagine her 5-year-old hand suspended in invisible wind, like a monstrously misshapen swarm on a long walk to steal flowers from the edges of neighbors' lawns. Now, in the absence of bees, my phone buzzes in my pocket. My sister sends a GIF, equipped with lit candle, pointy hat, whiskery cat face, sassy gray. I produce a dim smile for no one, tantamount to the kitchen's dying bulb, table the phone next to the laptop. Remember, I haven't spoken to Vince in 2 months. I've heard from his brother about a girlfriend, Greek professor or professor of Greek. To hunt down news of her, I try to read his last poem, sprawling so many storied arms like so many ghostly tentacles. I'm distracted. The blur of octopus I saw a few days ago with Finn at the Science Center focuses behind my eyes every 10 minutes. It reminds me, then and now, of what Vince said once at Chelsea's bar in Baton Rouge, that he'd eaten octopus before but probably wouldn't do it again. Hard to eat something with so much heart. I close the laptop, open the blinds to have a look before the sun cracks open the morning, spilling its judgments, hurrying the traffic to work. On our front lawn, 2 crepe myrtles wear the dark like a heavy coat. The ends of their branches have spread themselves too thin. I am here to sweep the mess of fallen petals. I am still here to compare bare branches to a dream of brooms. I am still here to write all this down. I am still slow in the process of disappearing.
On my 37th year, and yet another day around the sun. Gas grenades and rubber bullets win yet another day. Riots and racism protests burn in the divided states furnace after yet another series of executions by the police. Men and women caught red-handed for being Black, in the streets or in their homes, fast asleep. My country is suffering a pandemic, a recession, and is so divided it can't take a breath of the least polluted skies it's tasted since before the Industrial Revolution. Back home between protests, my friends board up windows, ready the generators as yet another hurricane looms on Louisiana. So far away, I reach further within. Nowhere near comprehending America's sick in the head, as the old folks used to say. Some now probably repeat, as if simple bigotry could save them from a plague. Sickened by their lack of surplus, without identifying the correct culprits, like welfare money is better off buried. Even after civil rights and the hippies, the powers that be managed to slip us America's true favorite drug, ignorance. Hey, greatest generation, or everyone wearing bloody caps. The Black bodies that made it great the first time can take no more abuse. It's not a threat to you to eliminate the centuries standing death threat on Blacks. Sheathe your assault rifle, park the tanks. We're just trying not to get here yet again. Yet another birthday sentiment, when we usually make a wish or two for the impossible. Bargain days, a mad dash backwards from the grave, the earliest hide and seek we never win. But blue on Black death daily. And although I'm not out in the streets dodging police to make a statement of solidarity, I violently punch keys that know no answers. The letters are my only Black neighbors. They are the only way I can join the drumline for justice. Determined forms that build the page Black and permanent, as the night and the fears we study there are infinite.
Vince, do you want me to read an American Vigil and then you end with Yellow Bit?
I think I'll go yellow and then you go.
Okay.
Yellow Vigil, just because it's the order of the book. Follow the yellow bit inroad. Tried to call the illusion there, the melody. Stockpiling serendipity in a server cave of technocracy, like it was sarin and we've got an Oz plot planned, but the era of terror got too stale to sell. So now there's a new normal to swallow, making bygone terrorist threat levels look like paint by numbers for world travel, as we are more or less embargoed, contained to a dull panic. Pandemic 8 weeks reborn, alone, unformed ironically by being over-informed, despite less ado about everything. Big data eats the little isolation worm, afraid of where the sidewalk begins, or just going to the store, ricocheting to the voids of the aisles with more end-time supplies on your person than even purchasing, vices and devices, little more than morning chores. I've taken to fondly singeing my bare hand on the teapot, to taste a past life. Spoons are the only utensils I continue to use, not for measuring my life, but for devouring the jot of stock one can still render from 3 millennia old marrow. And when I can muster the courage to expound upon my jettisoned position, I chronicle my life of limited rebellion, crouching towards the desire to see an even fuller spectrum, hopping fences, peaking on mountains, risking insanity for sanity, willingly jigsawing the heart to reassemble with anyone that fascinates me or cares enough to abandon their own assured understandings. for adventures full as moon. Over dense cities itching to crawl with pleasure again. Push past the forces of the state that have never represented interests besides their golden own. Not that I have striven to become more than mere anarchy, a pusherman of language and the experience to wield it, ever more flirting with the outer rims of rhyme, going as far as publishing fuck poems, yet partnered up with a 9-to-5, 2 mortgages and 2 countries, actually contemplating pushing a stroller, and definitely for the first time since the pinch of adolescence, a more sober than not disposition. I debate how much I have settled, an extent I may have hurled farther at the expense of my liberty or life itself. I did flee a country I could no longer bear enabling, and intermittently I agonize about what that makes me. More of a daybreak dreamer than a resistance deserter. Others, a civil disobedient ghost sheltering in a library by working with silence and white space long before we ever had to shelter in place. Certainly an expert at starting from scratch. I speak my mind when I care to, which is less and less. And right now, world over, there is an invisible plague which begs the declaration, we will all die in any language, one way or several. So really, there's really no way of getting away, but on the page or in a virtual space, deprived of the senses that on occasion make rotting for eternity almost bearable. Although just beginning to code, I now know that our machines promise to exceed us as the only lifetime learners that can ignore death. Maybe we should listen a little more closely to their songs. I heard a good one yesterday, claim in its outro, we want revolution, constant change, give to everyone food and clothes, kill the government, kill the system, kill the government, kill the system. If that's the AI revolution sapients have been so afraid of, let's follow the update upstage.
All right, friends, we're gonna end with this one. This is near the end of the book. This is An American Vigil. And I don't know if Brett Evans is still with us or not, but just a little shout out to Brett.
I'll see him.
He is he's responsible for the opening line of this poem. An American Vigil. It's not forbidden yet to play the jester. So the boss man wears his oh-so contemporary cap to the obligatory office party. You know the one, the sad American red, snapback shaped like an oubliette, wild as the masses at half-mast, strange as the bigotry sweating the need now to hide beneath it for the first time its infinite strands. Let's consider one story, every strand a seashore disappearing, every bit of stubble a spike, a blade contending ownership of sand and retracting equal rights like shadows cast over shadows. A literal, foaming white, flooded with blacked out ghosts of black bodies is not a metaphorical leap. We, born betrothed to the past, see what is lost in a long divorce because it's caught on film. I suppose it's all right to tell you, I suppose you already know, something the opposite of Wordsworthian has my tongue by its pincers. So I tell the jokes I know to the people I know, backed into the corners I know. Here, I shake my fist, rattle the glassy ice disappearing and begin disappearing toward the bar. I am an ocean falling on the walkable world. I might as well grow wings because I know how to fool everyone, could force fun from an egg cup if you have one handy. I can, like a nest, fashion a laugh out of white feathers, white sky, as in sharp against, as in dull against, as in the screwed up punchline, as in the usual disappointments, as in the big boss man clamoring around the obligatory office party, pretending everything above/below the unbroken bill of his numbly contemporary cap isn't falling from the sky. If we can cast an eye toward the deluge, as even the horizon grows small and dim, sinking itself into the sea as if into a dusty corner's forgotten spill. If we can reimagine a shore, its sun fastened to another rise, stand firm at its water's edge, maybe any voice backed into any corner won't cease to speak until the sky ceases to fall. The sky is never finished, so nothing is.
Guys, thank you so much. That was fantastic.
Shippy.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It's just been such a pleasure to work with you and publish you and work on this book together. Yeah, it's it looks great on the website in that big bold yellow. Just I wanted to say real quick, I put the link in the chat again. These are Shippy's collages, and on the front and back, and Vincent did the design and put them all together so beautifully on this 8x8 book. And yeah, it's just been wonderful to work with them. It always is wonderful to work with them back in 2014 on A Ship on the Line, and wonderful to work with them again. So it looks like that's our show. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I'm going to go ahead and allow people to unmute themselves now, since we have any trolls left, and shut off the recording if anybody wants to chat. Thanks again for coming.